Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation with us. 888-589-8840. Want to get right back to some phone calls. A couple of sound bites first. Here is Barack Obama talking about TARP and what a wonderful thing the TARP program was. Remember, this is the program that's supposed to bail out all the financial institutions. A lot of it went to automakers and not to banks, but to other kind of Wall Street firms. And the reality is, according to the CBO, this is Obama's own CBO, the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, this puppy is going to lose $24 billion. And the CBO is out there saying, hey, look, there's still $64 billion that's out there that we haven't got back. So that is at risk. So understand now what the truth is. Even the CBO says, now we're going to lose a minimum of $24 billion, and we've got $65 billion that's still out there that hasn't come back in. Here's what Barack Obama said, lying to the American people.
We got back every dime we used to rescue the banks with interest. And we passed a historic law to end taxpayer-funded Wall Street bailouts for good.
So that's Barack Obama. I mean, ladies, that's just a bald-faced lie. CBO, same day. CBO came out with its results. We're going to lose $24 billion on the same day that Barack Obama said we got every penny back. Not hardly. Now, it's interesting. Hillary Clinton appears to have fallen on her sword on this Libya thing. Let's listen, first of all, because the issue, how do we have this security mix-up like we had? This is a total foul-up, 4 people dead. How did this happen? Whose fault is it? Everybody's looking for somebody to blame. Hillary Clinton's been completely silent. She's been sending her deputies up there to get their hats handed to them on Capitol Hill. She finally comes out in Peru talking to CNN, Elise Labat. And Elise, don't have to worry. You'll have plenty of time to interview Hillary because I ain't coming on CNN ever again, so they're all yours. Here is Hillary talking to CNN last night from Peru.
I'm in charge of the State Department, 60,000 plus people all over the world, 275 posts. The president and the vice president certainly wouldn't be knowledgeable about specific decisions that are made by security professionals. They're the ones who weigh all of the threats and the risks and the needs and make a considered decision.
So Hillary Clinton said she's fallen on her sword. It's all my fault. I'm in charge. It's my people. Don't bother the president. Don't expect the vice president to have any idea what's going on. We all know that the president doesn't attend his daily intelligence briefings. Why should he have any idea what's going on in Libya? Why should he possibly have a reason to know there's not a single Marine in Libya? He's not even getting his daily intelligence briefings, not meeting with the national security team. So don't blame him, blame me. Now, the only thing I can think of, Hillary Clinton doesn't do anything unless it's got some political angle. The only thing I can figure is now she's sort of laying it off on her security people. Well, they make these decisions. Not really. It wasn't my decision. You got security people making it. So maybe she's trying to pass the buck to Leroy that way. But here's what she said about the president back in 2008, clip number 2. This is Hillary in 2008, where the buck stops.
This is one of the most important elections in our country's history. I believe we need a president who believed what Harry Truman believed, that the buck stopped in the Oval Office. I will do what I can to run the government and manage the economy because I think we need a president who is hands-on, not hands-off.
All right, so the buck stops in the Oval Office. That's Hillary Clinton 2008. Doesn't stop at the State Department. Doesn't stop with the Secretary of State. The buck stops in the Oval Office. Here's Dan Rather yesterday talking about the Libyan deal, and this is what Dan Rather, if you've lost Dan Rather, let's listen.
This is hurtful to President Obama, his administration, his campaign. And with Secretary of State Clinton standing up, she's doing the best she can to play defense for him. But in the end, the president is responsible.
In the end, the president is responsible. Dan Rather won't let Obama skate on blaming this whole thing on Hillary. Now, here is a montage of Barack Obama, David Axelrod, and Rahm Emanuel this summer, back in July. Now, they were talking about Mitt Romney being the titular head of Bain after he'd left. He wasn't running it day to day, but he was still on the paperwork as late as 2002. And they saying, hey, Romney can't go out there and say, hey, I wasn't in charge of this thing because the buck's got to stop with him. So all of them saying exactly the same thing. The buck stops with the top guy. Let's listen.
We were just talking about responsibility. And as President of the United States, it's pretty clear to me that I'm responsible for folks who are working in the federal government. And Harry Truman said the buck stops with you. Now, my understanding is that Mr. Romney attested to the SEC multiple times that he was the chairman, CEO, and president of Bain Capital. And I think most Americans figure if you're the chairman, CEO, and president of a company, that you are responsible for what that company does. Ultimately, Mr. Romney, I think, is going to have to answer those questions because if he aspires to being president, one of the things you learn is you're ultimately responsible for the conduct of your operations.
What he's saying is, well, I left before they actually moved these jobs to China and to Mexico, and I'm not going to be held responsible for it. You know, Harry Truman had a plaque on his desk saying the buck stops here. If Mitt Romney became president, he'd have a placard on his desk saying the buck stops there. If you're the head man, you have to take responsibility, and you know, he's going to have to explain that to the American people.
You can't, as president of the United States, you can't have a sign on your desk that said "Gone fishing." You can't put that on that desk. It's basically the buck stops there. You can't say to the SEC, I was the CEO, chairman, and president, but I'm not responsible. I'm not accountable.
So that's all of them saying exactly the same thing. So apparently the sign on Barack Obama's desk says the buck doesn't stop here. It stops with Hillary. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Frank, Bath County, Kentucky. Frank, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Frank, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Frank, turn your radio down and let me know what you're thinking.
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, you bet.
There was back while you asked, I think it was yesterday, the day before, you said something about, you was mentioning today about black pastors, about homosexuals. But I wonder, could you play that clip one more time for the guy that is asking people to leave the brother that asked people to leave the...
leave the Democratic Party? That was pretty powerful stuff. We don't have that in the queue. We have to kind of clear that out at the end of every day. But I think we've got it on, do we have that on the link to that on our Facebook page? You'll have to kind of root around, but you can find the link to the whole thing on our Facebook page, the Focal Point Facebook page, and it's worth listening to the whole 12 minutes. What's that, Jeff? Okay, Jeff is going to pin that to the top of our Facebook page. So if you go to Focal Point Facebook page, we're going to pin that video, the link to that video, to the top of the page. So grab it there, Frank. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Let's go to David in Chesterfield, Virginia. David, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Brian, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Listen, after watching Hillary last night take the fall for Obama like that, and I think that's what she done on saying it's her fault. Now, this is kind of out there, but I want to get your opinion. I think that the Democrats, the whole party, is going to end up throwing Obama under the bus. They need a scapegoat. Otherwise, the Democrats, the way he's doing things, the Democrats may possibly never hold an elected office again. Now, I know they're all narcissists or whatever, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't mind seeing, and it could very well happen where they just get on their Axelrod and say, well, we really was behind the wrong man. Give us enough, because they know it's getting really serious, and they may not ever hold another elected office again. That's probably way out there, but that was a thought that I had.
Well, that's interesting, David, and I appreciate the call, because that's a fascinating suggestion, because, the Democrats, if they see this thing sliding away from Obama, they see the ground opening up under President Obama's feet, getting ready to swallow him up and his entire political career. They're going to want to get as far away from him as they possibly can. Now, the only reason I think that Hillary would fall on her sword for Obama is if he made some kind of promises to her with regard to 2016. If you'll just fall on your sword, take one for the team, I'll do everything in my power to make sure you are the Democratic nominee in 2016. I will endorse you. I will campaign for you. I will raise money for you. All you got to do is fall on your sword on this one. So we don't know. But it'll be interesting to see what the Democrats do if the ground really starts to slide out from under Obama. There's no loyalty in the Democratic Party. I mean, they will flee like scalded dogs. Let's go to Frank in Crockett, Texas. Frank, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Yeah, it shocked me what that man said about 40 billion Christians, professed Christians.
Yeah, 40 million Christians that don't vote. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm Gnostic, of course, and I could still see evil, for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't fear the Mormons. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
especially Romney. I could see that he's not an evil Marxist. So I was wondering if you could kind of put out to those 40 million blinded people that for them not to vote against Obama is to actually cast a vote for him.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it's interesting, Frank, that's the point that I've made with people that talk about voting third party. And thanks for the call. I appreciate that. And it's a great suggestion. You know, and I have suggested the same thing that Frank has suggested to people, just as a matter of political pragmatism. If you vote for a third party candidate, it's a vote for Obama. I mean, the reality is that our next president's either going to be Barack Obama or it's going to be Mitt Romney. And if you want to make your vote count, then you're going to need to vote for one of those two guys. The third party vote, I understand the conscience reasons. I would never try to talk somebody into voting against their conscience if that's the way they feel like they need to go. But in reality, it's a vote for Barack Obama. And Rich in Sioux City, Iowa, don't have time to take your call. I'm sorry, my friend. We are just out of time. But it'll be interesting. We will talk about the debate tomorrow, so get geared up from that if you have a chance to watch it. My Giants have the night off, so you can take a deep breath and get tuned up to root them on to victory tomorrow afternoon. Tonight, you have my permission as the first mate on the USS Focal Point to take in the presidential debate. Here's your blessing for today. Now may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. He who calls you is faithful. He will surely do it. Don't forget to bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap, and never forget we are fighting a winnable war. See you back here tomorrow.
The views and opinions expressed in this